Hi, my name's Kat Feingold and I'm with the Hydrologic Engineering Center, and this presentation is to familiarize you with the HEC-DSSVue software. This is part of the DSSVue Prospect course, and in this we're going to be using version 3.4.15, so feel free to open up your DSSVue and to follow along. So the objective of this particular presentation is to become familiar with the HEC-DSSVue interface, layout, and features that it offers. HEC-DSSVue is a Java-based visual utilities program that allows users to plot, tabulate, edit, and manipulate data in HEC-DSS database files. So this utility program is for creating, managing, displaying, and editing any of the HEC-DSS data that you have. It's a Java-based program, as mentioned. It has a graphical user interface, or a GUI, that is available on Windows, Solaris, and Linux platforms. So you can utilize this on most of the platforms that you would use to do your day-to-day job. It also includes a lot of the functionality of previous HEC-DSSVue versions and different utility programs. So the interface itself is relatively simple and laid out in such a way that it should be fairly intuitive. So you have a menu bar, toolbar, current file, file tabs, path names, etc. And we're going to go through each and every one of these particular blocks so that you'll have a better idea of what each block does and how to utilize it with your HEC-DSS data. So we're going to start with the menu bar. Like 99% of Windows programs, the menus in HEC-DSSVue provide access to all of the functionality of the program. So if nothing else, if you're looking for it, it exists somewhere on the File menu. Starting on your far left, we're going to start with the File menu, and it looks like most Windows programs do, where you can open and close all your files, you can save. You have, the thing that's different here is you can view and print the entirety of the catalog. So the catalog is what we'll discuss later, and those are your DSS files. However, from here you can print and view the entirety of it, not just have to scroll through everything. And then of course, you have your recently opened files as well. Moving right along that bar, you're going to hit the Edit menu next. So Edit is where all of your graphical and tabular edit abilities are. It's also where you can manipulate the records themselves, renaming, deleting, and duplicating, etc. It also allows you to edit in Excel, which is a very useful option. Continuing right down the menu bar is your view. So this allows you to change how you are going to view the path names underneath. And each one has a different view that you can see. I highly recommend clicking through all of them. Here we have condensed catalog, which displays a shorter list than the path name parts because your D part is compressed into a range as opposed to broken out. The other button that you will probably need quite a bit is that F5 or further down the menu where it says Refresh Catalog. Sometimes when you make a change or you add time series, they're not visible until you refresh the catalog. So this is an important one to remember the location of. Continuing right, you have your display where you're not actually going to edit, but you just want to view the data. You can see there's a multitude of ways to display information. An important one here is that time window, about halfway down that menu. If you do not set a time window, you will not be able to display your data. It does not come as a default. That is something you need to go ahead and do. Your time window will give you two options. You can either create a very specific time window, giving it a start and an end, or you can give it a look back. Either way, this is one of the places that you're going to find the availability to set that time window. Additionally, this menu also allows you to tabulate in Excel as well. The groups is a really nice feature. It allows you to save and access frequently used data sets. So if you want to group together all your projects or you want to group together all of your gauges in a particular area, you can set those up here. Your data menu, this is where your manual time series entry and your import and export are. So we have a lot of options to import different data into DSSVue. As you can see here, you can import chef, different time series data. You can reach out to the National Weather Service and get their CHIPS time series data files. These are all options. And you can also see down below there's an Excel import. If you have all of your data in an Excel, you can import that in as well. It's also where you're going to export to. You'll notice you can also export to the National Weather Service CHIPS file. You can export to Excel, Chef. So there's a lot of options in here, and that's all, again, under the Data menu. So taking a quick look at that manual time series, you have to go in and fill out all of the different parts, but it also allows you to manually input all of the data if you want, or you can have it automatically generated by giving it a start and end time and then a fill value. You can also graphically edit it if you look down at the bottom. So all of these are options inside the manual time series entry under the data tool option, under the data option. Which brings you to the tools menu, next one down on the right. So your tools menu has a lot of really interesting pieces. This is where you're going to find your script editor for those of you who would like to script. HEC-DSSVue does support Jython scripting, which is a combination of Python and Java. This is also an area where you're going to find your math functions that you can apply to the different paths and time series. It's also where you can compare your time series. So you can take two different records and compare them to find out the differences between them. Also at the bottom are several plugins. So if you look underneath your script selector, those are all additional plugins that you have access to from the tools menu. Your advanced menu is going to give you the different areas of debugging and output. So you can go ahead and send your full catalog out, or you can debug if you run into problems. And finally, the help menu. So your help menu is going to be able to access the DSSVue version that you are currently working on. Again, we are working on 3.4.15. It'll give you when it was put out, and it will give you all of the contact information for the Hydrologic Engineering Center. If you click on Help, that'll bring up the user's manual on the HEC Confluence website, which looks very similar to this. So this is the HEC-DSSVue documentation on the Confluence website if you were to go ahead and use that Help menu. That rounds out your file. So let's go ahead and jump down to the toolbar. So the toolbar is where you're going to find a lot of the common features that we added as quick access buttons for all the users to go ahead and utilize the most clicked on, the most required pieces inside HEC-DSSVue. So the ones that we really saw as useful are file open, which everyone knows is that universal file folder opening. The next one over is going to be your plot. And then the interesting little T with the multiple lines, that's your tabulate. So those two are just going to open data for you. So you also have the graphic editor and the validation editor. Again, after this presentation, I'm going to do a short demo so you'll see what all of these look like when they are open. And then finally, you have the tabulate in Excel, which will just pop it open in Excel and show everything there. That lovely little FX, just like in Excel, it's your math functions. So that identifies, if you click on that, it'll open up your math functions option. And then here we have the DSS 6 to 7 script button. Those are for individuals who have DSS 6 on their computers and would like to transfer them to DSS 7 records as DSS 6 is being depreciated. But the DSS 6 to 7 button and the test record type, those actually are buttons that you can add. So anything you can script, you can add them as quick access buttons here on the toolbar. This is going to bring us to the File tab. So with HEC-DSS, you can have multiple files open at one time, and each one opens in its own tab the same way it would in a browser. So each one has its own thread, and it's easy to access, and you can just click through the top. So you can have as many of these open as your RAM supports. You don't just need to look at the specific little tab and that shortened name to figure out what it is you're looking at. So anytime you click on a tab, you're going to pull up the current file info for that tab, which if you take a look, it's going to give you the location of your DSS file, which is very important so that you know exactly where you're pulling your data from. It's going to give you the number of path names inside that DSS file, so the number of records. It's also going to show you how many of those you have selected in your current selection box. And then it's also going to give you your file size, the version it was written in, and now the version that it's being viewed in. And that's all located just above those tabs. Just below all of that is your Pathnames list. So these are the data records in the current HEC-DSS file. So whatever tab you have clicked on, these are the files that are located in there. And they are known as a catalog. You can sort them, they're condensable, and you can filter them. Speaking of filter, this is how the filtering works. You'll notice that there are boxes at the top of the Pathnames area, the catalog part. So these are the Pathnames filter. You can click on them and select what you would like to filter by, and it will filter directly to that. The other thing you can do is utilize the context menu. So you can right-click on any of the Pathnames inside the catalog, and it'll bring up a secondary menu bar, which will let you plot, tabulate, or edit. You can copy the Pathnames to the clipboard, which might be useful when you're doing data elsewhere. You can also rename, duplicate, copy, or delete a specific Pathname file. So there's two things you have to do before you are going to use most of the DSSVue functions, and that is you have to set your time window, as we mentioned earlier, that very bottom right button, or through your view up at the top. So remember to always set your time window. And the other thing you need to do is you need to identify the data sets you want to work with. So if you open up a DSS file and you don't click on anything, you'll notice that most of the buttons are grayed out. If you don't select a piece of data that you wish to work with, you won't be able to select any of the functions that you would like to utilize. So here you can select in two different ways. You can either highlight the Pathnames inside the catalog that you would like to work with, or you can double click them and add them to the selection box. And you can use the reset button, the restore selections, and clear selections to move things around as well. So this is really important to note, that as you are clicking through, highlighting the names will allow you to plot, to tabulate, to do anything you'd like, just like it would if you had selected. However, if you ever have anything in this box down at the bottom, that is going to override anything you have highlighted. So if you were to graph what you see here with one highlighted and the rest in the box, you would only get the information that is located in the box. You would not get that highlighted piece of information. So that's very important to remember moving forward, that your formal selections will always override your soft selections, which the soft selections are just the highlighted selections in your data catalog. The other thing HEC-DSSVue allows you to do is you can select data sets from multiple files and plot or tabulate them all together, or even perform a math function on them. And the way you can keep track of that is if you look at the front half in the selection box, you'll see that it tells you the source file before the Pathname list. So that's really important to remember moving forward. You can utilize different DSS files and plot and tabulate and work with them all at the same time. You just have to remember where you're looking at. And it'll tell you that in the selection box. So that is generally what the data and how to grab the data, to select the data. Now let's take a look at what it's like to visualize that data. So we're going to look at the plotting and tabulating. So as always, remember, you can select more than one data set from the Pathnames list. Always remember to have your time, your look back time, your time window needs to be set. Whether it's look back or whether it's dictated time, it needs to be set. So you can plot them on, you can plot multiple Pathnames on a single plot. As you can see here, we have flow and elevation. So these are two different Pathnames, two different files plotted on the same basic menu. So your elevation and your flow here for this example. And this is done by clicking on that plot button in the toolbar. So you can plot multiple data sets that have the same axes on the same one as well. As you can see here, these are multiple flows from different areas inside the Pathnames list. So these are different data sets that all plot flow. So they are all going to plot on the same data set. And you do it the exact same way with that plotting tool. You can also plot individual data sets, and you can see the buttons up top where it mentions 2 of 5. You can click through them. There's also the drop-down menu that allows you to select them as you go through. And again, we're going to do a quick demo of all of this after the presentation, so no reason to freak out. If you select one or more data sets and you click the Tabulate button, what it will come up with is an image very similar to this. So what that's going to do is it's going to go ahead and show you the numerical tabulated version of the date, time, and then your data. So you can plot multiple time series data sets, and they are all going to display in the paired data set display of their own tables, unless they all have the same parameter. So you can change how you view these tabular areas as well. Through the view table, you can change the order, you can separate the date and time, you can change the decimal places. Those are all available to you on the table itself. You can also change how you show missing. So when you tabulate in Excel, it looks very similar, except it's in the more familiar style of Excel. It also supports a drag and drop function. So you can drag path names onto the different plots and tables. You can drag them to the different tabs up top. You can drag DSS files from Windows into the DSS view and it'll open it up. It'll merge it. You can drag other files into the DSS view. However, it must be a known extension. It must be a file type that DSSVue has the ability to work with. So drag and drop is a very useful feature. So this is an example of the drag and drop where they dragged multiple time series onto a single plot. So this concludes the formal presentation portion of this. So I want to thank you very much for your attention. If you have additional questions, you need help or additional training, you can go ahead and take a look at these links here. They're also going to be located directly below this presentation. So if you have any additional questions, please feel free to check out those links. And thank you very much for your time. If you watch the next video in this presentation, it is going to basically do a demo. So the next video in this playlist is the demo of what you just saw here in this presentation. So again, thank you very much for your time.